When we reflect on the management of type 2 diabetes, it becomes clear that an effective approach cannot be limited to the simple act of prescribing medication. While pharmacological interventions such as metformin or insulin adjustments play an important role, long-term success is far more dependent on how well patients integrate lifestyle changes into their daily routines. Research consistently shows that individuals who participate in structured lifestyle programs, particularly those designed around careful dietary modification and regular physical activity, tend to achieve better and more sustained glycemic control. These interventions do not merely lower blood glucose in the short term, they also improve cardiovascular health, reduce the risk of complications, and enhance overall quality of life. However, despite such compelling evidence, adherence to lifestyle recommendations remains a persistent and complex challenge. One of the most underappreciated barriers lies not in lack of knowledge or even access, but in the psychological and emotional resistance patients often feel when they are encouraged to abandon deeply ingrained eating patterns. Food is rarely just fuel. It carries cultural, familial, and emotional significance. For many patients, traditional meals are tied to identity, comfort, and social belonging. Asking them to change these habits can therefore provoke anxiety, frustration, or even outright rejection, regardless of their understanding of the health benefits. This is why a purely biomedical focus, fixating on numerical targets like HbA1c or cholesterol levels, can fall short. A clinician who recognizes and respects the symbolic and cultural importance of food is better positioned to foster trust and motivate gradual, realistic change. For example, instead of insisting on strict elimination, they might work with patients to adapt familiar dishes into healthier versions, or encourage smaller, achievable adjustments rather than radical overhauls. Such an approach validates the patient's lived experience and creates a sense of partnership rather than prescription. Ultimately, success in diabetes management is as much about empathy, cultural sensitivity, and psychological support as it is about pharmacology or measurable outcomes.
Recent data emerging from our cardiac unit strongly indicate that post-operative patients who are provided with individualized physiotherapy sessions, as opposed to being placed in generic group exercise programs, experience a noticeably faster recovery. This improvement is particularly evident in their ability to regain mobility and in their overall functional status, which directly impacts their quality of life after surgery. The logic is clear. When therapy is tailored to a patient's specific physical limitations, medical history, and pace of progress, the interventions become more effective, targeted, and patient-centered, leading to superior outcomes compared to a one-size-fits-all approach. However, it is important to acknowledge that such personalized physiotherapy interventions come at a cost. They demand additional staffing, higher levels of professional expertise, and specialized resources to ensure each patient receives focused attention. This requirement presents a substantial challenge, particularly in smaller hospitals or resource-limited healthcare settings, where budgets are tight and the ratio of healthcare workers to patients is already stretched thin. In these environments, group-based sessions, although less effective, are often favored simply because they are more cost-efficient and logistically easier to implement. In our longitudinal study examining hypertension in middle-aged adults, we observed that dietary interventions yielded far more significant results when they were integrated with continuous patient education. The rationale behind this finding lies in the fact that behavioral change is rarely sustained through instructions alone, Rather, patients need to internalize the reason behind those recommendations. For example, when patients were made aware of why sodium reduction plays such a pivotal role in controlling blood pressure, namely that excess sodium increases fluid retention and thereby raises vascular resistance, they became more motivated to adhere to prescribed dietary changes. Moreover, when they learned how incorporating potassium-rich foods such as bananas, leafy greens, and legumes helps relax blood vessel walls and maintain vascular tone, their compliance rates improved even further, because the advice was no longer abstract but physiologically meaningful. A particularly striking insight from the study was that the style of education mattered as much as the content itself. Traditional didactic methods, where clinicians or dietitians deliver a one-way flow of information in a lecture-style manner, often failed to engage patients fully. While such approaches may deliver accurate facts, they frequently left little space for patients to process, question, or apply the information to their daily lives. In contrast, when the educational model became interactive, allowing patients to voice their challenges, such as the difficulty of avoiding processed foods due to work schedules, or the misconception that all low-sodium products are automatically healthy, the effectiveness of the intervention increased substantially. This dialogue-driven strategy not only corrected misunderstandings but also empowered patients to co-create realistic solutions, fostering a sense of ownership over their health choices.